Political Posting Mumma joins me in this interview. She's been described as a mama bear, fiercely protecting her cubs against threats and danger. What danger? Safe schools. Gender theory has been introduced into every state's curriculum, sometimes openly, sometimes secretly. There's a new initiative to defend against it, to give power back to parents and say, no, you may not teach our children values and ideologies. Your job is to educate them, not indoctrinate them.
Hi guys, Political Posting Mumma here, and I'm getting brave. I am desperate to get the information out on the Safe Schools program, and I'm going to share my story of Safe Schools too and let you know what I know about Safe Schools and why Victorian parents, we need to get really angry. We need to fight this. So first, let me start by boldly saying that the Safe Schools program is not and never was an anti-bullying program.
Warning, you are now entering a diversity zone where different opinions are tolerated. This is not a safe space. This is Pellowe Talk.
G'day Marijke and welcome to Pellowe Talk.
Hi Dave, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for finding time in your extremely hectic and busy schedule to sit down. Now, one of the things that you're busily organising, and the thing I really want to talk to you about today, is the International Sex Education Sit-Out, scheduled for the 23rd of April around the world. Tell me, what is that, and what is it trying to achieve? Why should the average mum and dad keep their kids home from school that day?
Yeah, so basically the National Sex Ed Sit-Out, International Sex Ed Sit-Out, I was contacted by the activist mummy. When my video went viral, it became quite apparent quite quickly that this was a worldwide issue, and I've connected up with activist mummies around the world, Laura Lynn Thomas from Canada as well, and this was actually organised by a comment that came from the activist mummy, and basically it was just a simple comment about we need to talk with our feet. We need to actually do something about what's going on. And so they came up with this idea that we would protest, that we would keep our children home and send a very clear message to this tax-funded education department that basically we won't accept it and that our children won't accept it. So the idea, I think, is basically the safest option, and I also feel is going to be the most effective option. I'm not going to pretend that one sit-out day is going to close it all down.
So when you say safest sit-out, you're talking about the alternative of actually doing a protest.
Yep.
At which, no doubt, there would be extreme leftists turning up to commit acts of violence and create trouble where none was possible. So we're actually in a society where peaceful protest isn't possible because of extremists on the left who come to counter-protest without permits or permission or any intention of being law-abiding. And so we're coming up with an alternative plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first put this video out, I got a very inspiring photo sent to me by a mama warrior in Peru, and she sent this photo, and there was probably 50,000 marching in the streets, and they had placards and signs. And so initially I was like, let's do it. Let's get out on the street. Let's march. But I'm from the state of Victoria, and I already have had to deal with many incidences with Antifa, where, for example, there was a Safe Schools forum held in the city, and they blocked the doors. They were very violent and aggressive, and they blocked us from getting in. I've when I spoke at the Coalition for Marriage, we had a protester jump up on the stage, and there have been times when I've felt physically threatened.
Hairy Philistines.
Pardon?
Hairy Philistines. That's what you breed down there in Victoria, and in a dense population of hairy Philistines that can't let anybody else live in peace. Yep,
absolutely. Scary times. And so my concern with protesting was, one, putting children in that environment. Mm-hmm. You know, we're talking about families who want to stand up and speak out, and many may not be aware of just how violent these people get. They wear masks and they are very aggressive, ironically calling themselves the anti-fascists, but are truly fascists themselves.
Yeah,
and
like jackbooted leftist Nazis of the National Socialist Party in Germany. Everybody else is the Nazi except for them.
Absolutely, yeah. So the idea of doing a sit-out protest was, one, to keep our kids safe, but two, to also make this take it back to school level as well. The idea would be that we actually send a letter, to which I will be putting onto my page.
Yeah, great.
A lawyer helped me with that, that we can actually send to the principal, that people have something in their hand to say, this is why we're doing what we're doing. You have crossed the line with our children and it is not acceptable, you know.
Yep.
And so that will take...
And so will people be protesting their school or the Department of Education in their state?
Yeah, look, it's really the department. And right from the start, this is what has been kind of tricky about this, because it is about a program that we're attacking, and not every school has implemented the program.
Mm-hmm.
And those that have, there is spectrum and scope. And so, for example, one of my kids' schools, there's no evidence and no sign of it. So when people say, I haven't seen any sign of these programs yet, that's quite often the case, because only some schools have implemented it. So I haven't attacked individual schools. I haven't gone after...
And we're not asking anybody else to.
No, that's right.
Yep.
That's right. It really is about a program. And I know there are many teachers, because they are in my inbox. People wonder where I'm getting the curriculum from. I've got some great people holding the line who do not want to mess with families' values, who do not see it as their place to be teaching these concepts to young children, and who basically just want to get on and teach like they were trained to do. So there are many teachers holding the line, and we want to support them, but we want to send a clear message that we pay for the school system through our taxes. These
That's
are
right.
our children, and the line has been crossed, and if it hasn't been crossed already, it's coming. It's coming for every school. So we're going to try and send that clear message as clear and as loudly as we can.
That's absolutely brilliant. I'm excited about it. I think it's a great initiative, because there's no point in boycotting something without communicating something. So, for example, if you want to end Cadbury's meaningless religious tax paid to Islamic certification companies to prove that they don't put pork in chocolate, then you don't just stop buying Cadbury and change brands. You actually have to send them a letter and say, nothing wrong with your, cooperation with different observances, but paying a tax to it and expecting profits from, my consumption of your chocolate to help you cover that cost, just isn't okay. I'm not going to be part of funding another religion. Changing products alone isn't enough. You actually have to communicate something. So keeping your kids home from school on the 23rd of April, also isn't going to change anything by itself. But if enough of us do it together and it becomes a newsworthy, notable event, that these are the parents, these are the families, these are the students who you don't have the permission to indoctrinate with all kinds of harmful sexual, inappropriate sexualization curriculums, then we actually communicate that at the same time and say, no, they're not sick, there's nothing wrong with them, but International Sex Education Sit-Out Day, we are not going to stand any longer for this, and you need to know that these are our kids. We reserve and have the God-given right to educate them on values and sexuality. You do not, and you are taxpayer funded, and we're not putting up with this anymore. This is an election issue. This is a taxpayer issue. This is a natural parental rights issue.
Absolutely. The unfortunate thing, Dave, I do need to mention, though, is that because this was organised by the activist mummy in America, I would want to jump in on this date, but unfortunately not all states are at school on that day. So I had the option of not going forward with it or opting in, and we have chosen to opt in. Victoria is at school that day, and as we know, it seems to be the heartland. All the programs have come from Victoria. But I just wanted to make that point that this was a date that was already set, and I think if we do it from a worldwide angle, comprehensive sexuality education is a worldwide program, been rolled out into the Western world. So if we opt in, and it's an international worldwide event, these are worldwide Western values. We are not going to accept it. But we will look at doing another date, for sure, for the other states that want to opt in. And look,
which other states are on holidays then?
Okay, so I knew you'd ask me that, and I should have checked the text. But we actually, I believe it's Victoria, Queensland, and Tasmania that are at school on those dates.
Okay, good. I want to participate. I want to keep my parents home, my kids home from school, and good. Queensland, watch out. My kids won't be coming that day.
Absolutely.
That's a Friday.
Yeah. This is the next thing that we have to do. We actually have to really strongly advertise this, and I'm going to need troops on the ground. This is just something that I've chosen to get involved in, but at the moment it's a one-woman show, and I don't underestimate.
What kind of help do you need?
Basically, I need people on the ground. I need people to what I'm planning on doing. I'm working on at the moment is I'll get a page up, and we'll invite people to come into that organisational page for our sit-out day. And then I thought we could get a pamphlet out, because not everyone's on Facebook, as we know. Not everyone even really knows the extent of what's going on. So then I need my mama and papa warriors, as we are, on the ground at the schools, at local level, being the mouthpiece and doing the work there, and letting other members of the community know that if they have an issue with some of these concepts being taught to their children without their permission, that there is an option to have a voice and to opt into this National Sex Ed Sit-Out Day. So that's one thing that I'll be doing. I'll also be putting up the letter onto the page so that people can print out the letter, and that takes it to the principal, and that way it's not just a whole lot of kids just not at school that day.
Good.
There's actually a purpose.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. That'll be good. So if you're a mama bear warrior wanting to protect her kids from the most vile, pernicious, disgusting curriculum that's ever been forced down anyone's throats without your permission or sometimes without your knowledge, then this is the opportunity to do something about it. It isn't okay to sit back and relax. Political Posting Mumma is the Facebook address that you need to look for, and that's spelt the Australian way, not the American way. Mumma with a M-U-M-M-A, Political Posting Mumma. Send her a message on her page and let her know if you'd like to help. Let's make many hands make light work. Every school in Australia needs to hear that kids will be staying home for a reason, for a purpose, and that's for a better future for their education. So that's very important. We need to get the word out there. And of course, even if you can't be an on-the-ground coordinator, you can spread the word. Share this interview. Stay tuned to the Political Posting Mumma page for more information, and let's share this and make sure it's absolutely known widely. We'll come up with a hashtag, a website, flyers, and all the information you need to spread the word and make sure everybody in your circle knows. And of course, concern for your kids' education and future isn't something reserved to mamas. If you're a papa warrior, then it's time to speak up, stand up, be counted, put our foot down and say no more. You're not going to abuse my children with this gross sexualization and complete anti-science fantasy myths about gender fluidity and normalization of sexual and gender confusion. It's not okay. What else should we know about this day, Marijke? Have we pretty much covered it?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You made a great point there. You know, I'm a mama warrior because I am a mum, but we need dads. We really need dads to rise up with us and to stand up and protect their families and their children. These programs strike at the very core of a child's identity. And it is absolutely horrific that this has been implemented without our knowledge and without our consent.
Yeah.
I believe consent.
Yeah. Look,
consent
dads,
portion.
if if you don't want a daughter growing up with daddy issues and becoming, the plaything of boys who show her no respect or love or, respect at all, then this needs to be put to a stop. One of the activities I can recall off the top of my head that's been part of this curriculum is a young girl, something like 12 or 13, having to role play what it would be like having had multiple sexual partners at the age of 16 because of how drunk she gets at parties. If children should be rehearsing that kind of lifestyle, do nothing. But if you think that's a terrible thing for your daughter to entertain and imagine doing, then you need to stand up, speak up. I mean, there's countless examples. This interview isn't going to go into the details, but that's, what else would you what other outcome would you expect if that's the kind of role playing you're doing? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It is, and the other really sinister side to this is, even if you are someone who agrees that this is something the schools should be doing with your children, and there are people that are okay with this. I don't understand that, but there are. But the bigger point is that there should be an opt-in, opt-out. This should always be something that parents are included in. And the fact that the department continually hides what they're actually doing, if that's not alarm bells, I don't know what else is. Yeah. I mean, they've even done it recently. They've taken it all underground. I posted the prettied up link they made, removing -18, which is still heavily embedded into the program, removing some of the more sinister links. They've made booklets that you have to pay for them. So they're making out like these were never part of the program. Well, what is the program? Where is it? And what are you actually doing? Because the hiding and the deception, it wouldn't matter what it is. That is just absolutely abhorrent. Like we can't stand for that. And to be, if we're going to have to be reasonable about this, just like any other value-based subject, we need an opt-in and an opt-out, and we need consent.
That's
Children
right.
Need consent.
That's right. Look, it's from this dad to the other parents out there. Take responsibility for educating your children about sex. That is not anybody else's job. That is your job. I don't care if it's uncomfortable or awkward for you. Skill up, find the resources, and do it yourself. This isn't anybody else's job. Nobody else is going to care for the future of your kids as much as you do. And there's a problem if they do, because you should be caring for them more than anybody else. This is the thing you have to take responsibility for. And part of that is refusing anybody else the permission or the opportunity to beat you to the punch. You have to deny and assert your parental rights to say, no, they're my children. I will raise them in what is right and what is good, not any prime minister, current, alternative, or in the future. There's absolutely no way you can trust those decisions to any leader of any political party. This isn't the plaything of politics. This is the stuff of families, the most fundamental fabric of society, and the absolute agenda of Marxism, socialism, and all things leftist is to destroy families. Do not be surprised when this is counterproductive and poisonous to the ideal health and emotional maturity of your children as they grow up. They're at a very vulnerable stage. We have to take responsibility for their health and their sexual education. That's up to us. And look, if
we don't outsource our parenting.
We don't outsource our parenting, and we certainly don't let the government usurp it.
No.
And here's the point that you're saying, Marijke, is that if there are some parents for whom it is just absolutely beyond and they absolutely want some help, then that help should be made available optionally to opt in later when asked for. It shouldn't be forced down anybody's throat. It certainly shouldn't be compulsory, and it certainly shouldn't be secret. And that's the thing. This is so outrageous. This is so abusive and controversial and anti-science. It's utterly fiction what they're teaching. It's not even good education. It's destructive, false education. Then that needs to. It's become so bad that they're now hiding it instead of just ending it, which is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been tied up in pretty little bows with would you like a lolly little child? I mean,
it's creepy.
The rest of this program is really creepy, and we need to keep calling it for what it is.
George Christensen gave it the best word possible. It's grooming.
It is grooming. It is grooming. The program is grooming. I haven't accused any teacher of grooming, or, you know, they're not my allegations, but anyone who with any idea about sexual abuse or grooming behaviours will be able to look at this program and see it exactly for what it is.
Yeah.
You break down those walls, you sexualise children. It's all about preparing them. And it is absolutely disgusting and unacceptable that we've got to this place in Australia.
Yes. Former LNP Senator Joanna Lindgren, a niece of Neville Bonner, the first Indigenous man to serve in Australian Parliament, is a teacher by qualification. And she, not only that, but she also served in Queensland's civil administrative the Civil Administration Tribunal, the people that try and do negotiations and between conflicts and where there's been corruption or bad behaviour, then they implement behaviour. So a lot of investigative things going on where they'll interview teachers and other public servants for misconduct and unprofessionalism and decide essentially if they're in trouble, how much trouble they should be in. She said, forgetting the moral or immoral substance of this education, the word grooming is absolutely right. There is no way in any teacher's right mind that they would want to be saying these words and having these conversations with students, because it is opening them up to so much unnecessary risk and liability and future accusations, because the nature of it is so explicit, so sexualized, and so not age appropriate. It's so inappropriate for teachers to be having these conversations with students of how far into details these things go. It's reckless and irresponsible on a professional level, not even on an ethical level where we disagree with the ideology that's being rammed down our children's throats.
Absolutely. And the thing, there's still so many people not believing. I've got so many people on my page saying people aren't believing this is happening. And I understand that, because I still hear stories and think, really? Even though I know it is actually unbelievable. I remember what school was like for me, and the fact that it's got to this point is crazy.
Yep.
And I know for a fact that can be happening in a room next door to a teacher who has no idea that this is what's happening. Yep. I've got perfect examples of this. For example, I posted a photo that was sent to me of a mother had sent of a child, and this child was crafting genitalia, which is, of course, is the first claim that kind of exposed this program that my son had to do as well. And so I got this other photo, and I'm hearing more and more that this is definitely part of this is actually a sexuality curriculum. I don't care what they call it, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
But basically,
they keep changing the name. That's the thing. It's not safe schools anymore. They'll call it rainbows and cuddles and who knows what else next time. They always give it a nice name. Yeah,
rainbows and bows and lollipops, exactly.
Yep.
Do you want a lolly little girl? I mean, honestly, let's call it for what it is. It's very strictly packaged. But basically, I had a teacher on the page, and they recognised the uniform, and the teacher said, "This hasn't happened. This isn't at my school." And so I said, well, would you please do some more research? And sure enough, they investigated, because I said, well, maybe it's art class, the child's just being silly, that was Play-Doh. And the teacher actually said, no, I'm an art teacher. That hasn't happened in my class. So upon investigating further, they went and spoke with the principal, and sure enough, the principal said, we are doing that sexuality education. It's the catching on later, catching on early, which has come out of the La Trobe University. But neither the principal or that teacher in the room next door were aware that this was happening.
Wow.
So this is what we're talking about. It's so embedded and so secretive and so deceptive as to what's actually going on. That that is very concerning as well. So I understand when people say it's just not happening.
Yeah.
Because we've got this one issue of spectrum and scope to the program. So, okay, some schools are still holding the line and they still haven't seen any evidence of it. And then you've got some schools that have the program, and then you've got other schools where they have an absolute zealot for the cause who is a total Marxist who believes that it is right, they're privileged, they may have a sexual orientation that they want to share with your children. So all it takes is a zealot to manipulate. Now, we want consistency in education. It should be absolutely across the board consistency, and we shouldn't be leaving it to the values and the beliefs of a certain teacher to be able to take advantage of it, which is what this program does.
Yeah, that's right. Look, if you're sceptical, that's fine. Don't be cynical, though. There's a difference. Skepticism looks for evidence, asks intellectually honest questions, and is open to wherever the evidence leads. So be skeptical. Look for the evidence. Ask Political Posting Mumma, ask the Australian Christian Lobby, ask me. There's loads and loads and loads of it. I've got interviews I've done with Wendy Francis on Safe Schools about this time last year. You know, this is old news. This isn't anything new. The evidence is bountiful. In the interview I did, I actually put clips up from the -18 website, which is part of the, where there's one child talking about being bisexual means you can be friends with boys and girls. Like, how ridiculous, how pernicious, a stupid thing to teach young children. Another girl is saying that she wants to decide without her family's input when the right time is for her to transition to a boy and change her gender and get operations and the such like. They're teaching children to not even, include their parents in these life-changing surgeries. Like, how ridiculous. These are terrible, terrible things. They are happening. It's okay to be skeptical. The evidence is plenty. But don't be cynical. Don't start with a closed mind and a foregone conclusion that the education department and the government would never do anything to harm you, your children, or anything else for their own purposes and agenda. That's just naive and ignorant.
It really is. And even this, the narrative that they continue to drive, this is an alt-right or this is a Christian issue. It absolutely isn't, and they're very clever how they do that. This is a mainstream issue. This is a parental issue.
Yep.
And of course, like handing out a lollipop, and let's keep going back to that. Of course, they're going to have you trust them. Of course. It's not the stranger in the bush, is it? It's very much a process. And so to demonise anyone who speaks about what some of these concerns are is very much a part of how they've got away with it for so long. So it's a very much a mainstream issue. I mean, I'm part of lots of different community groups. Most of them, it's not a religious issue at all. But even if it is, I don't care if it is. That should be respected in Australia anyway.
Absolutely.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Section 116 of our Constitution is about keeping the government out of religion, not keeping the church and political people, and religious people or people with a Christian worldview or any particular worldview out of government. That, of course, would be undemocratic and illiberal instead of the pluralistic, inclusive democracy that we do enjoy. And so for the government to then presume the authority to dictate certain beliefs and ideas and agendas, over our children is to essentially establish a religion. It certainly violates our freedom to practice our religious beliefs, but furthermore, I would argue it's actually them establishing beliefs and saying now everybody has to think like them, has to think like the ruling party, has to think like the majority, because the minority could never be right and the majority could never be wrong. We've never seen anywhere in history where the majority have voted for something really, really, really flawed, immoral and evil, like 1940s Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the political climate, Safe Schools, if anything it's done, is woken us all up to actually what we're facing. And it's been really eye-opening to see. We are really looking at, if you only have one way of thinking, if you only have one way of, or one form of government with one way of looking at things, you really are looking at communism or fascism.
That's right. It's totalitarianism. Everybody has to think like the government says you have to think.
Yep, totalitarian. Pardon?
Everybody has to think the way the government thinks.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So there's a bigger issue at play here, and this is actually what we're fighting for. We are really in a fight for freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion. This isn't about actually not being able to really, we're fighting for truth, because if you don't ascribe to gender theory, which I don't, I do believe strongly that boys are boys and girls are girls.
So does science.
Yeah. If you don't ascribe to gender theory, then they're not even allowing us to speak the truth. This is actually what the biggest battle is.
We talked about religion before and saying that it should be permitted to be part of the conversation, but it doesn't need to be. Gender theory is anti-science. Of course, gender is binary. Have a look at the actual statistics. No objective person would say that the statistical anomalies represents anything other than a binary nature of male and female. It's so anti-science, it beggars belief. The amount of mental gymnastics required to believe that your gender is something to do with your psychology. It's utterly ridiculous. Absolutely,
yeah. And that's why they're going to the young children now, because even though I think they were finding, I know my older two children wouldn't have a bar of it, but as we know, children are very, very, they have pliable brains, they are susceptible to manipulation, and that's where this gets really scary, because I think they've recognised, we've got to start in preschool with the gender theory book and this ideology, and even the resilience, rights and respect for relationships of a demonising of little boys and victimising of little girls. This is political ideology that they are, pushing onto our babies.
That's right.
The way they see society should be.
Thank you very much for all the work you're doing, Marijke. I encourage everybody to jump onto facebook.com/political posting mumma, spelt the way it is beneath the video right now, over there. Yep, that way. And make sure that you follow her page, share her videos, and send her a word of encouragement, and let her know that you're praying for her if you're that way inclined, because the attacks and the criticisms, I can guarantee you, are coming thick and fast. So it's nice for Marijke to be able to know that you've got her back and that she's representing your thoughts as well. And let's not be the silent majority. Let's be the mama and papa bears that are, the warriors that are going to fight for our kids, for their innocence, for their security, and for their health. And we'll keep you informed, and we'll do more information and really promote this International Sex Education Sit-Out on the 23rd of April, Friday the 23rd of April, globally, nationwide and globally. And again, we'll make sure that it's practical, not just keeping the kids home and letting them play PlayStation, but actually making a dent on policy and on culture, letting principals in the Department of Education and the media, members of Parliament, everybody know that our kids are going to be withheld from education systems that assault their innocence.
Absolutely. And thank you for your voice also, Dave. It's great. More of us are rising up and speaking out, and that's how this battle will be won. So thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, and I look forward to catching up with you again. Now that we've got the first time, we'll hopefully be able to stay in touch.
Absolutely.
That was Marijke Ranci, the political posting mumma. Make sure you like and follow her Facebook page. Make sure you also like and follow mine, Dave Pellowe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube and SoundCloud at Dave Pellowe. I'm also on iTunes if you want to catch up with podcasts there, or on SoundCloud. But iTunes, you just have to search for Dave Pellowe. I'm also looking to get more support for the equipment fundraiser I'm doing at the moment to make sure that I can do really great outside recording, doing interviews on the streets with ferals, people who don't want to think straight, challenge their thinking, and let them challenge mine. let's face it, they don't have a very high opinion of the way conservatives and Christians think. So let's examine that and not restrict ourselves to our own version of the leftist echo chamber. What we want to do is also build the ability for this to become an ongoing, permanent work. If you'd like to support the ongoing work, head over to davepellowe.com. Subscribe to email updates. It's only a matter of time before conservatives like me get deplatformed and shut down by the big corporate censors who do not want you to hear the truth. If you subscribe to the email newsletter, you'll be able to get regular updates from me, as well as know when and where to find me next time my channel is shut down. And of course, if you'd like to become a regular partner of the ongoing work, you can do that from as little as $3 per month. And of course, the more the merrier. But that's it for now for another episode of Pellowe Talk. I hope you've been enjoying it, and I'd love to see you participate in the conversation. Leave comments, likes, loves, shares, etc. in the comments beneath this video on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever you see it, and we'll see you in the next episode.